Once upon a time, in a quiet land far from the noise of cities and kings, lived a man named Job. Job wasn't just any man, he was kind, thoughtful, and deeply respected by everyone who knew him. He was also very blessed. Job had thousands of animals, lots of servants to help him, and 10 wonderful children. But more than all of that, Job loved God with all his heart. Every morning, Job would get up early to pray and offer sacrifices, just in case his children had done something wrong in their hearts. He cared that much. He wanted to be close to God and to protect his family however he could. People far and wide knew about Job. He helped the poor. He looked out for widows. He welcomed travelers who had no home. Even leaders and elders listened when Job spoke. He was a man of honor, inside and out. Now, up in heaven, something curious happened. God's angels were gathered and Satan showed up too. The Lord asked him, "Where have you been?" Satan answered, "Just roaming around the earth." God smiled. "Have you seen my servant Job? No one on earth is like him. He's honest, good, and faithful." But Satan said, "Of course he worships you. You've protected him, you've blessed him, but take it all away, and he'll curse you to your face." God replied, "All right then, you can test him, take everything, but don't lay a finger on Job himself." And just like that, Job's peaceful life turned upside down. One by one, messengers came to his home, each with devastating news. "Job, the Sabaeans attacked. They took your oxen and donkeys and killed the workers. Fire fell from the sky. It burned up all your sheep and shepherds. Your camels were stolen by raiders, more servants dead." And then came the hardest news of all. Your children, they were having a feast when a mighty wind came and crushed the house. No one survived. Job stood, his heart shattered. He tore his clothes in grief, shaved his head, and fell to the ground, not in anger, but in worship. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Even after losing everything, Job didn't blame God. Back in heaven, Satan returned. God said, "You see, Job still trusts me." Satan wasn't done. "Take away his health," he said, "then he'll curse you." God allowed it, but warned, "Do not kill him." Job's body broke out in painful sores. From his head to his feet, he was in agony. He sat in ashes, scraping his skin just to find some relief. His wife, seeing his pain, couldn't take it. "Why are you still holding on to your faith? Just curse God and be done with it." But Job answered gently, "Should we accept only good from God and not hardship too?" Still, he didn't sin. Then Job's 3 friends came to visit, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. When they saw him, they were shocked. He looked so different, so broken. They cried, they tore their robes, and they sat beside him for 7 days without saying a word. They simply grieved with their friend. On the 7th day, Job finally spoke. His voice was soft, filled with sorrow. "Why was I even born? What is the purpose of this suffering?" He didn't curse God, but he wished he had never lived to see such pain. Eliphaz spoke first. "You've encouraged so many people, Job, but now that trouble has come to you, you're shaken. Isn't it possible you've done something wrong?" Job sighed. "If only someone could weigh my grief, it would be heavier than the sand of the sea." Bildad added, "God doesn't punish the innocent. Maybe your children sinned. If you're pure, God will restore you." Zophar was even harsher. "You probably deserve worse. Just repent and things will go back to normal." But Job knew in his heart he had done nothing to deserve this. He cried out for answers. "I need someone to speak to God for my mediator, someone who understands both God and man." Then Job said something beautiful. "I know my Redeemer lives, and in the end, he will stand on the earth. Even after my skin is destroyed, I will see God." Job's friends didn't understand. They kept blaming him, but Job kept hoping. He believed God would hear him, somehow. Even though the skies were silent, Job's faith was still alive. That's where we leave Job for now. His story is far from over, but already it teaches us something powerful. That even in our hardest moments, when everything feels lost, we can still trust God. We can cry, we can ask questions, and we can hold on because the story isn't finished yet. In part 1 of Job's story, we saw a man who lost everything, his wealth, his health, even his children, and yet somehow still chose to trust God. It was heartbreaking, but Job's journey isn't over. In fact, some of the most important lessons come next. Job was still sitting in ashes. His friends were still there, offering all the wrong advice. They kept repeating the same idea: you must have done something wrong, otherwise God wouldn't be doing this. But Job knew better. He cried out again, "I haven't done anything to deserve this. I don't understand why I'm suffering, but I wish God would speak to me." And then, someone new spoke up. His name was Elihu, a younger man who had stayed silent until now. He had listened respectfully, but now he couldn't stay quiet any longer. "Job," he said gently, "you've been demanding answers, and you've been trying to justify yourself rather than trusting God's wisdom." Elihu wasn't cruel like the others. His words weren't filled with judgment. Instead, he reminded everyone just how great God is, how powerful, how just, and how full of mercy. He said, "God speaks in many ways, through dreams, through whispers, even through pain, but we don't always notice. Job, God hasn't abandoned you. He may be correcting you, or maybe he's teaching you something you can't yet see, but he is still good, always. Then, out of nowhere, the wind began to howl. Clouds swirled, the skies rumbled, lightning flashed. And from the storm, God answered. God didn't explain everything. He didn't give Job the reasons he had longed for. Instead, God asked Job a series of questions, deep, powerful questions. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Have you ever commanded the morning to appear? Can you guide the stars or loosen Orion's belt? God described the wonders of creation, the sea, the snow, the mountain goats, the hawks in the sky. He spoke of things Job had never even imagined. And slowly, Job began to see. God was reminding him that there is so much more happening than we can ever understand, that behind every sunrise and every storm, God is working, that His ways are higher, His wisdom deeper, His love beyond measure. Job bowed low. "Lord," he said, "I spoke of things I didn't understand, things too wonderful for me to know. Before, I had only heard about you, but now I have seen you with my own eyes." Job didn't get all the answers, but he got something even better. He encountered God. Now, God turned to Job's friends, the ones who had spoken harshly. He told them they were wrong. "You didn't speak what was true about me, like my servant Job did. Go to him, and he will pray for you. I will listen to him." And so, the same man they had judged became their intercessor. Job forgave them. He prayed for them, and God accepted Job's prayer. Then, something amazing happened. God restored Job, not just a little, double. He gave him twice as many animals, new servants, a new home, and more children, 7 sons, and 3 daughters, who were said to be the most beautiful in all the land. God gave Job a long, full life. And even more importantly, God gave Job peace. Narrator, warm and heartfelt. So, what do we take away from Job's story? First, life can be incredibly hard. Even good people suffer. But second, God is always near. Even when He feels far. Even when the skies are quiet. Even when answers don't come. Sometimes, faith means trusting without clarity. Sometimes, worship means holding on through tears. Job's story reminds us, God sees, God hears, and in the end, He restores. Though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. Job 13:15. In part 2, we saw how even without answers, Job clung to his faith, and in the end, God restored him. But Job's story doesn't end with wealth or a happy ending. There's one more chapter, and it's all about legacy. After all the pain, all the loss, all the waiting and wrestling, Job lived on healthy and whole. And as the years passed, Job got to see his children grow up. He laughed again. He sang again. He watched his grandchildren and even their children run and play. His house was filled with joy once more. Job had known what it felt like to be broken, and now he knew what it meant to be healed. But he never forgot what God had taught him. Job wasn't just restored in wealth, he was restored in wisdom. He became a mentor to many. People came from distant lands to sit at his feet, to hear his story not just of suffering, but of God's faithfulness. And Job always pointed back to one truth. The Lord is good. Even when we don't understand, He is good. His story spread, passed from generation to generation, not because He was perfect, but because He held on. He became a symbol, a reminder, a beacon for anyone going through hard times, that even in silence, God is working, that even in sorrow, hope still lives. Job's life reminds us of the kind of faith that lasts not just in good times, but in the worst moments. A faith that says, I will trust you even when I don't see the full picture. A faith that worships with tears in its eyes. A faith that believes the story isn't over. And friend, whatever you're going through, the same God who met Job in the whirlwind is with you too. You may not have all the answers. You may not know the ending. But you can know this. God is still writing. And the story is not finished. Thank you for joining us for Job's full journey here on Waters of Faith. Subscribe for more Bible stories that stir your heart and strengthen your spirit.